I'm just getting set up here and waiting for Kate, of course. Oh, and here's Meg. We're so excited that she is going to be joining us today. This is in a direct response to you guys asking for information about adult acne. And she is fabulous. And I'm just trying to get everybody in here. Catherine thinks it's funny to watch me be awkward.
No.
Hello.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you too. How are you guys doing?
Oh, we're good. We're really good.
So
We're excited. Super excited for today.
Me too.
Yeah, I'm glad that you could hop on with us. It's going to be great. And we had so many people asking for this. So I was just like, that connection was just so nice.
It was perfect. And honestly, I will not shut up about this stuff. So you guys let me know when we need to.
Okay. We're playing a balancing act today with my phone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's
perfect. Okay. Well, why don't we just start with like an intro to Meg and all of the wonders that you provide, and how you got started and all the things.
Yeah. So I specialize in helping women heal acne naturally. And how I got onto this path is because I struggled with acne, like really severe cystic acne for years. I had my first breakout when I was 9. So before I was even menstruating, which was really, really early. And then pretty much all the way through early 20s, even, and in my mid 20s, finally was when I started to get it under control. But I just got so discouraged at the process of, going to the dermatologist. First, they just give you some topicals. If those don't work, they give you more topicals. And then when those don't work, they give you antibiotics. And I was on and off antibiotics for years, really messed up my gut over time in that way. Did spironolactone, Accutane, which didn't work. Yeah. So I just got really fed up with the process. And I believe it was when I was studying for my master's that I was like, you know what? There's probably some connection here. What am I missing? So I really dove into it, and I was my first client. And within my skin, the way my skin reacted to the approach that I took is not the normal way, but I was just doing so many things wrong at the time that my skin responded really well. And within 3 weeks, I had an amazing change. And I was like, oh my God, why don't more people know this? So that's how it started.
Amazing.
Oh, it is.
Well, yeah.
No,
and it's go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's funny because a lot of people that are in this space and especially holistic health, we all have some personal connection to how we got into it. It wasn't just like, oh, well, that looks fun. Let's go try that, that path. It was every single, I swear I haven't met a person yet that it wasn't born out of pain and not wanting other people to have to go through that same pain. So it's crazy. I had acne really bad in my 30s. Yeah. Never had. I bet I had 5 zits my entire life. And then in my 30s, it was so bad. I did the whole thing like you. Although I wouldn't take the spironolactone. I was kind of, radical even then. But I did do Accutane. But it was so bad that my kids drew pictures of me with dots on my face.
No.
Yeah, it was horrible. It was horrible. So, yeah. I wish I would have known you then.
You know what? I wish I would have known me then. It's so true. And, kids are funny. I in the past, that's the first thing they point out. They don't know, and they're like, what's those spots on your face? And eventually I was just like, they're spots of wisdom.
Oh my gosh. But yeah, so I don't know why this keeps moving. It's like there's something possessing my camera.
It has a mind of its own.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So super, like, so clearly there are people out there that are, you know, suffering with this, but, you know, and just even in our community, people are starting to ask about it and ask us questions. So,
Yeah.
really,
I think one of the things I would love to kind of jump into it with is talking about like the myths around acne and what we've all been taught, like things that we've been taught that are just so incorrect. I think a lot of people, even if you're in the health space, sometimes I've heard it come up where I'm like, wait, what? So I'd love to just like start there. And if you have any ones that like really jump out at you that you like really want to talk about, like let's get into that.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that diet has nothing to do with acne. I heard that my entire journey, and I kept asking and asking and asking. I'm like, are you sure? Like, are you positive that diet has nothing to do with what's going on? And they're like, no, 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 no. Everybody, dermatologists, OBGYNs, everyone that I saw, nothing to do with it. That is a complete myth. And I think now, and in maybe the past 5 to 10 years, there's certainly been more scientific research that are coming out. So I think even more conventional practitioners are finally getting on board with how much of an effect diet does have or can have on acne. So that's the first myth. The second myth, though, and this is something I'm really passionate about, is that for some reason we are still attempting to treat adult acne in the same way that we are taught to treat teenage acne. And actually, when you do that with adult acne, you make it worse, or you are more likely to make it worse. And what I'm talking about is the very drying. When you're a teenager, you have your skin's a lot thicker, your hormones are kind of going crazy, so you're producing a lot more oil. It's more oil driven acne. So a lot of those, you know, topical solutions that might be a little bit more drying, I'm still not a huge fan of them, but they can be a little bit better tolerated in skin like that young, that thick. But when you try to do that for adult acne, and this is after your skin's slowed down significantly producing collagen, after you're probably not producing oil like you were in your wild teens, right? Because your hormones maybe they're definitely not at that level. So when you try to apply that approach to more mature skin, and when I say mature, I also mean like early 20s, that for your skin's lifespan, that's when you stop producing as much collagen. So you are maturing. It dries the skin out, it can thin it out, and actually can make you break out even more because it irritates you and it just ruins the skin barrier. And so you create this cycle. It's really hard to get out of. So those are two that jump out at me right away. But are there any that you've heard that I can debunk for you, or that any of the people joining want to know about?
Yeah, go ahead.
nope, I did last time.
I think more, and I know we'll get into this a little more, but I think when we're associating diet with acne, there's things that people are being told that like really that area of their diet doesn't actually matter. It's something totally different. And maybe we'll touch on that in a second, but that's one I think that we could really dive into. But Mom, what was yours?
No, that was where I was going. So yeah, you got it.
Perfect. Okay, good. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there you'll see, like, and a lot of people told me this too about, there's two things that I want to touch on about this particular topic. And one is the idea of having food triggers for acne. Like, people are like, don't eat shellfish, don't eat nuts, don't eat like all these things. And so chocolate is another one. So what I want to say about that is that the research, we don't have research on much, if any of those, except maybe for chocolate. And it's the little that we have is very confusing. So what I practice and what I preach is that I don't cut out anything until we have solid evidence to do so. And the reason for that is because what I've found with a lot of these food triggers, and by experimenting in my practice and things and diving into the research, is that everybody's genetic code is a little bit different. So I do have some clients that are very sensitive to things like saturated fats. So when their saturated fat intake is a little bit higher, we notice a direct response in their skin where it's a little bit oily or maybe a little bit more congested. But other than that, it's so individualized. So I would not jump to cutting out things like shrimp or shellfish or nuts or anything outside of what is proven in research, or at least suspected in research for acne. And those things that are well studied in research are dairy products, and high glycemic index foods. Those are the most well researched. So if you're gonna experiment with anything, you could start with those, but unless you have solid research or evidence to do so, I wouldn't even bother with the other stuff. So there's a handful of people in this population in our population with acne that I think could break out to a lot of different things, but it's so small that it's not worth making a blanket statement of saying, hey, try this, it'll help, you know? The other thing that I want to say is that food is rarely a cause of acne. It is, granted, if it's long term, like if you have a poor diet or a high glycemic diet, for example, for the long term, it could turn more into a cause just because it's been so chronically that way. But if you are, it's not usually the actual cause, they are triggers. So what that means is I like to work from a place of adding nourishment rather than restriction. So what I've seen in research and what I've seen work in my practice is that people who are acne prone tend to be, they need more vitamins, more minerals, more fiber. So we need more of those nutrients than our counterparts who don't have acne. And I found that we can get very far with just focusing on those things versus focusing on, oh, I have to avoid dairy, or I want to try, cutting out all sugar entirely, even fruit, which I don't agree with.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're right. And those are all good points. It's funny how it seems in skin, like there's a lot of historical or ancestral kinds of things that come along with, advice. And some of them are really good, but you have to kind of dig a little bit deeper and figure out why, was that a good thing? Because it's really not base value. But it seems like everything I've ever heard about skin was completely wrong. I mean, anything my mother told me, anything my grandmother told me, it was like, it was wrong, like plain and simple. So there's like this huge need for education around this, to help people understand what this really is, what's really going on.
Yeah. And I think my approach is very much, let's learn how to listen to our skin too. Because like you said, you can get so much knowledge passed down from your family, which is a good source because your genetics are probably pretty similar. So it's not to promise that what worked for them will work for you, but it's a good starting point at least. But if you are noticing that your skin is a little bit more oily, or you're noticing it's a little bit more congested, maybe after eating a certain way, or at the specific time in your cycle, or by exercising a certain way, or not sleeping, or whatever it is, your skin will tell you. So I encourage people who are trying to navigate their way on their own to really pay attention to the signs your skin is sending you, because it wants to be happy, I promise. It just needs you to listen.
It's funny, like one of the main things for me, like when I have breakouts, or if I do have breakouts, it happens after drinking. That's my like liver congestion for me. Like I'm getting something, and it's interesting, just to your point that like you can tell when something's off, and your skin is like such a good indication of something being out of whack for sure. Yeah. And I wanted maybe on a different note too, kind of along the same lines of like myths or busting myths, but when we're talking about skincare, a lot of people are talking about products that are going to help with acne and things like that, and more like less like, some things that dry your skin out, like you were saying with teenagers, but like I know a lot of like the acid like topic is big. And I'm curious on your perspective and expertise and all that, because that's like dermatologists get on, and there's a lot of like dermatology influencers that talk about the different acids to use on your skin and why you would use them and things like that. So
yeah. Yeah. So I will say that I'm a licensed esthetician as well, but I haven't practiced in a while because I focus more on the internal side now. So I just put out that disclaimer there. I think the noggin is still working and up to date on these things, but I actually have a licensed esthetician that I work with who sees my clients, and so she's my go-to for information. But I will say that I think that acids, if you're going to use acids on your skin, they are important for exfoliation, especially for somebody who is more acne prone or even has a skin type where you naturally exfoliate very quickly or regenerate skin cells, but your natural process is just a little bit slower of like sloughing off the dead skin cells on its own. And that typically is acne prone people. But anybody can benefit from these very gentle, like alpha and beta hydroxy acids topically. However, I really think it should be super individualized. I would not take like a blanket statement from anybody that says, hey, you should use this and this and this many times a week in this product, because everybody's skin is so different. So that's my kind of my point
blanket
on that.
statement.
My statement.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
My blanket statement on that is I think that topical care has to be so individualized, because a professional can see your skin and feel this, like, how does your skin feel? And that's how an esthetician will make a decision about your care. So yeah. There's no blanket, but that would be if I had to choose.
So then moving towards more of like your approach, what you focus on, like what are the main, like your main points like you'll really dive into with somebody that comes to you that wants to
improve their skin health.
Yeah. So I have 3 kind of main steps in the process. And the first step is to figure out what is going on. And that's where we use testing. Based on the testing, then we correct the imbalances, and then we can shift them into maintenance. So it's more of, this process is learning the love language of your body is what I call it. So that the goal isn't necessarily it's to clear your skin, to give you happier skin, but if you're genetically prone to something like acne, you're going to have a breakout here and there every now and then. So it's not realistic to say, whoa, you'll have big, beautiful skin, poreless. That's not really realistic, but it's about learning the love language of your body so that when you do get a breakout, you'll know exactly what to do about it. And so an example would be, like, I have a client who every time she gets a little backed up, she feels a little constipated. She knows she has to get her fiber in, she has to get her water and her movement in, or a few days later, she will have a breakout. Or if she does have a breakout, she can look back and say, oh, I need to really get on the movement and the fiber and the water. So that's what I do in my program. But if somebody is just looking to dip their toes in and kind of wants the main points, there's some really good places to start. And that is, I really highly recommend trying to get at least 30 grams of fiber every day. So this could be your soluble fibers, like your apples or bananas, or things that are artichokes or garlic. Are really awesome. Beans are also probably one of my favorite foods for the skin. Beans of all kinds. And that's for a few reasons. We know that fiber helps to balance blood sugar. And because research ties acne so heavily to blood sugar dysregulation, it's a really easy kind of blanket way we can stabilize the blood sugar. And also it's really good for your gut. And we know that the skin is a reflection of what's going on internally and has a direct kind of communication line with the gut. So it's kind of dual purpose. The other thing is I really try to recommend that people double their vegetable intake. So whatever you're doing now, double it. If you're getting a cup of vegetables at meals and you're doing well in that way, try to get 2. And this goes back to what I was saying about focusing on nourishment and adding rather than restriction. And also the fact that acne prone people tend to need more nutrients and minerals and fiber than people who don't. So those are some ways that I would really like, they are just so good. If I could choose two things that you could do for your skin, those are the things for sure that I would do.
And that's for anybody. I mean, that's really like, it's not if you're prone to, it's, you know, for anybody to do that, to keep their skin happy. You know, so yeah, because we all want that. Like we all, and, you know, and the complexion part is nice, but just, it's like the rest of it too, back acne, chest acne, you know, places that rub together acne. I mean, you know, it's like all of those things, like we, you know, I mean, everybody can benefit from that. So.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
When you're, and this is like actually coming from someone like one of our followers, we were chatting a bit, and, you know, is there, and maybe you can expand on this, but when we're seeing acne show up in different places on our body, is that indicative of specific systems, you know, that are out of balance, or are we really just like more prone to it in certain places and it's really all, you know, we can do the same things or focus on the same things?
Yeah, it depends. This one's kind of up in the air for me because I very much am a fan of science, but I also very much know that as we have to treat the individual, we have to really go based on what their body is telling us. And that concept is known as face mapping. And so I use it in my practice as a guide, but I don't rely on it solely. Like if someone comes to me and I see that they have acne around the mouth primarily, I will start looking for hormonal imbalances, and that's the place where I'll start. But I won't put it in a box of saying, oh, this means it's hormonal, because often the most confusing thing about acne, I think, is that most of the time there's more than one root cause all happening at once. So that's why you won't necessarily, and sometimes you'll see clients who have acne like just in one area, just around the mouth or just along the jawline. But usually it's a combination where it's like cheeks, jawline, maybe on the chin, neck, you know, it's so to me, that kind of speaks more to, these are where our sebaceous glands are, the oil, the glands that produce oil. And I think it just depends on the individual. But I also think that science hasn't, as we know, as we talked about with the diet and acne, it's a little slow to catch up, right? So I would not be surprised if somewhere down the line there was research that either showed yay or nay as far as connecting the systems. But I do believe in theory, there's a basis for it as far as the way the lymph moves around and how and the meridians, if you're more following an Eastern medicine type of flow. So I certainly don't discredit it, and I definitely use it as a guide. I just don't rely wholly on it, because I think working with the individual is more important, and what their test results say.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
so funny because I think anybody that like is getting into holistic health in any area, they start to hear that message over and over and over again. We're like, hey, we can give you all these kinds of like tips and tricks and advice, and like, but at the end of the day, everyone's different. So you know, like that's the most important thing. And it's such a funny message, because I think people are so used to these like rules around everything. And it's really hard to break people of like, okay, yeah, but that might not be what works for you. And that's okay. And what that means. And we've all been like conditioned to follow rules.
Well, yeah, rules or medications that are like, here you go, this is going to fix that. And it's like, you know, maybe, maybe not, probably not. I don't know.
Right, exactly. But I think that's what brings it back to, if there's one message that I want to say, I think it's about really learning how to listen to your body, because that is the way that you can you can see what, like, listen to your skin. Is it more oily when you do X, Y, and Z? Where are you breaking out? Is it one area or multiple areas? And maybe even tracking it, which is another kind of strategy that I recommend if you're not quite ready to work with somebody yet and you just kind of want to find on your own what's going on to make connections. But just like you were mentioning, tracking it can really be helpful as just a way to learn your body's love language. So if you're not ready for like full individualization yet, at least start listening to your body.
Love that. That's a great message. It's a great message. Yeah. Well, Mom, do you have any other like questions or anything to wrap up, or anything that you can think of?
No, I just think, you know, one of the things, I think there are a lot of products out there and these different paths that people go down, especially when I think about pharmaceuticals, you know, like a spironolactone, which we could talk about that for a while, or the Accutane, which is equally can be equally detrimental to your overall health, you know, both of those things. So when someone comes in and they're like, well, this is what I've been doing, do you need to like detox, get rid of that piece from what's happening before you can kind of dive a little bit deeper and get into, okay, now we can kind of get the landscape ready so that we can really heal you, or not heal, but we can really bring you like optimal health, optimal skin health, you know? So I'm just kind of curious if people are coming to you like, hey, I've tried all of this stuff and, you know, I'm still here breaking out.
Oh yeah. Actually, I'm usually their last stop. They usually don't come to me until all the other things didn't work. And it's not their fault. It's just that's what they're taught to look for. So it's like, you have acne, you go to the dermatologist, and then you're, you know, get caught in that cycle of going back and forth with them. And those things work for some people, and they're happy with that, and that's fine. But yeah, by the time I'm the last stop on the road, people get to me and they're like, I have tried everything and I just don't know what to do. So yes, there's certainly a period where we need to prep. I typically go by what I see on their test results. And usually there's a month before, like while we're waiting for them to collect their samples, get their results back. And that month I really spend on working, really setting good foundations with the diet. So we're not skipping meals, but also the diet, but also the acne mindset too, right? Mindset's a really important part of this. So we're not skipping meals. We're not picking our skin. We're not obsessing in the mirror. We are doing our, you know, bad bitch affirmations every day, like all the things, you know, like
I like that. That.
Whatever works for the person. And but we are adding more nutrients. We are doubling our vegetables. We're getting those 30 grams of fiber a day. We are focusing on hydration, both through water and through the right kinds of fats. So setting that foundation a lot of times ends up being enough for somebody to be ready, because they're so simple, but they're so important. And if there's any other support or kind of detoxing that we need to do, I'll see it in the test results, and then we can go with it that way. So
yeah. And I do think, I mean, I do think that the testing is an important piece to all of this. I mean, in any functional space, it doesn't really matter where you are, but at saying that, there's a lot of things that you can do with someone that is helping to guide you and kind of be your cheerleader before you get to that testing result. Because, you know, there's so much misinformation. There's so many things that we try because we believe we're doing really good things for ourselves. And, you know, without a guide to kind of help you, it's very difficult. It's, you know, it really is a tough road, you know.
It is. It really
is. There's just conflicting, like even in the same, you could have literally a holistic acne nutritionist saying something completely different than what, you know what I mean? And you're like, oh my gosh, what is this? It's definitely hard. And it's a big reason why having somebody who can test and know how to interpret the tests and has experience interpreting the test is really, really key
Oh yeah.
too.
Yeah.
So
Especially with something that's so multifactorial, like
Mm-hmm.
skin health in general. It's not just acne, it's also eczema, it's also psoriasis, it's also, I have a lot of clients with rosacea too, because acne and rosacea are very closely tied. It's also, even if you're just looking to make sure that you are supporting your skin the best way you can as you age, that's also, it's so individualized, and there are
Mm-hmm.
multiple factors that compile into skin health in general. So it's just a good, I call it a translator. Oops, now my phone's all falling.
contagious.
I know.
Yeah.
I call testing the translator to the body, because you're trying to learn the love language, and the testing is there to help you translate what your body is saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a great way to put it. I like that. I like that.
I think, yeah, I think too, like and this is something like I'm 32, and where I'm getting into the realm too of a lot of my friends and everything doing like Botox and retinol and those types of things too. And it's so funny because it's like, yeah, I can talk about the cons of all of those things. But it's like when you're focused on your skin from the inside out, it's not, it's acne and all that, but it is also like the longevity and the wrinkles and the looking young and all of those things. And not to mention, if you're somebody that goes and gets Botox or things like that, like actually we can give you more bang for your buck. Like you can do less of that or make it, you know what I mean? Like, I don't, I'm not, I don't do it. And if someone's on the fence, I would give my opinion, but also you're spending a lot of money on something that you have to continuously do. And, there are ways to, go ahead.
When you could be doing face yoga for free or something,
right?
Like it's something you have to keep up with for sure, but it's free.
Yeah, right. So I just, and it's people see like wrinkles and your skin getting older as external, and you're like, no, it's actually, Mom, you haven't had anything done. And like when I tell people your age, they're like, what? So, it's a good testament.
You're telling them I'm 74,
they're like,
right?
Well, no, I always tell people that she's like 15 years older than she really is, and the reaction is awesome.
I like that.
Oh my gosh, I'm sure.
Yeah. But yeah, I just think that's an important thing to also say. Like the skin health, it is from the inside out. And it's not just, it's not something you just have to be like, oh, well, I'm getting older, and so I have to do this because there's no other way to get rid of my wrinkles and my whatever.
Definitely.
Like, oh, actually, yeah. So that's just something that I'm like, that's personal to me, because I'm in that stage of life where there's a lot of people around me doing Botox and injectables and things, and are very concerned about the longevity of their skin. And so, I've been tempted too, like
definitely. And a lot of that stuff comes down to diet, like we talked about, stress levels, sleep, movement, getting your circulation going, the lymph flowing. Like there's just so many, and I'm not saying it's the right path for everybody, but it's a good one to start with, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
So any closing thoughts from you that you wanted to make sure you share? Or we'll make sure that we put your information, how people can get a hold of you, and anything you want to share with the people that watch this will be attached. But
the PS, guys, the testing that Meg is doing is super cool, and the packages are really, really neat. So just go check them out. Like we were looking at them the other day, and we're like, the way that you do things, it's a really cool process. So
thank you. I really appreciate that. I've taken multiple trial and errors, and there's been many versions of it, but I think I finally got it down. So thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, No, what was, I know I went and interrupted. I need to learn to hush more.
No,
but...
you're good. But, well, it was great talking to you again. And yeah, I hope you have a fun weekend.
Yeah, thank you.
Everybody
I think I will. My birthday is next week, and I'm taking the whole week. It's Leo season, everybody. Get on board.
Hey, my husband and my daughter, both.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
energy in your house.
Oh, you have no idea.
Well, enjoy. Happy birthday to them. And
Happy birthday to you.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you. Enjoy your week.
Thank you. You too.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.